Today I want to share with you Yoda808 training for the Zenith of Power, which includes his gemming a bunch of troops to get the #1 score for the event in our continent. Stick around in this video for a number of things. We'll talk about the Zenith of Power, we'll talk about Yoda808 and the sort of strongest players by power in the game right now, and also we'll give a little update on how our new Kingdom project is going in Kingdom 1605. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And I've got to give a big shout out to Yoda808, who during his Zenith of Power training recorded it all and shared it with me to put onto the channel. So again, a big thank you to Yoda808. This training video is going to start with 20k extenders, and I've sped this up at 200x speed because there is going to be a lot of training, and then is going to conclude with gemming a bunch of troops. Now, of course, in all my videos, you can use the timestamps to navigate to whichever portion you're most interested in, so check out those timestamps and consider subscribing if you haven't already for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. This is not the first time, by the way, that Yoda808 has gemmed troops. He put up an insane score during, it was the Eve of the Crusade for our last KVK. In fact, in our last KVK, Yoda808 was over 1.8 billion power, and he killed an unbelievable number of troops, more than had ever been lost by a single player in any KVK up until that time. And Makote was really, really close in that same KVK to having more dead troops than Yoda, but I think Yoda had the slightly bigger number. It was like 800 million power loss in a single KVK, which is insane. So Yoda808 is in rebuilding mode. We just got our troops back from the Hall of Heroes troop return, and he's already over 1.4 billion power. And I apologize if at some point in the video I say million instead of billion, because that number is just so large, it's like very hard to fathom. In fact, how many players have that kind of power in Rise of Kingdoms? Well, according to the data from rockboard.com, we can get a look at the top 10 or so players by power. And keep in mind, it's a little bit sometimes out of date for certain players, kind of depending on when they're in KVK and when they sort of did a data pull for those individual players. But if we get a look, Maverick L on 6.6, so this is a couple weeks ago at this point, was clocked in at 1.461 billion power. So at this moment in time, Maverick might be the highest player by power, although he may have also done some KVK battling and lost some of that power. Nephisto is actually listed as the #2 player by power, although the last data pull for him was on 6.8, and he has subsequently quit the game. I covered that in a different video, and I'll have a card up in the top if you want to see my interview with Nephisto, where he explained why it is that he ultimately departed from Rise of Kingdoms. Then you've got Wild Lion and Mr. Hope, a father-son duo. Their data pull is very recent. On the 26th of this month is when that data was pulled. So actually, like today is when that happened. And they're both at over 1 billion power, which is really wild. Next in the list is Baba, and he's at just over 1 billion power. 1 billion power, 15 million to be exact. Then you've got Mimi at 1 billion power, and a second account from Mimi at 1 billion and 3 million power. Yoda808, before troop return, had 1 billion and 4 million power. So like a 1 million power difference for a brief time there between them. BT Cyborg at 705 million power. And then the next player in the list is someone from 60GT. I wonder if that's Sean at 622 million power. Really crazy. So the top players by power are just really stacked accounts. And when you have a really stacked account, you end up in this weird position where you might be gemming troops. How does that work? So in just a moment, Yoda808 is going to run out of speed ups, more or less. He's going to run out of extenders anyways to do big training. And it's never a good idea to be gemming troop extenders to train your troops. You're better off just getting troops, okay? And using all the gems you would have spent on extenders or reserves is what they're called in the VIP shop. You just train troops. And so he's going to start gemming troops, okay? And this is a really crazy operation. He's got 7.8 million gems, as you can see in the upper right of this recording. And he's going to blast through, I think, at least 800,000 gems worth of troops to get a total score in the Zenith of Power of about 50 million. Now, on the topic of the Zenith of Power, this Zenith of Power is a 15% Archer attack city theme. Now, that is not the strongest Archer city theme in the game. I would argue that generally either the 10% health or the 15% defense is a better Archer theme. So why might you want a 15% attack theme? Well, if you're not being directly targeted, aka if you're going to multi-rally something, then having extra attack is really good. And it might not get quite as good of a trade, potentially, as like having the defense. But when you're multi-rallying, your goal with that extra rally is to not be taking skill damage from the garrison if you can anyways, and it's to just crank as much damage as you possibly can. So although I didn't ask Yoda808 why it is that he specifically wanted this theme, my best guess would be for that multi-rally context to just crank out as much damage as possible. And I think that's, when you're at peak 1.8 billion power, you can kind of go for all the city themes if you want them. And, I'm struggling with the word like reasonable because it's all a matter of perspective in a game like this as to what is or isn't reasonable. So anyways, now I'm going to show you the thing that most people would say is probably not reasonable, which is going to be the gemming troops. He's about to run out of extenders. And one thing you'll notice, I think earlier in the video, I did a cut because Duke, for some reason, sort of fell off Yoda very briefly. So he's got the Duke now. You definitely want that. Obviously, Kingdom buff is running. You switch to Germany. All the sorts of things that give you the troop training speed, boosts, okay? And he is doing exclusively archers here. So you may wonder why archers? I mean, Dido garrison meta, man. Dido is really crazy. So now, he's up to 46 million T5 archers. What he's doing here is playing around with the number of troops that he's going to gem. And I think he does the math and realizes that 1,403 troops exactly is better gem value. And for those of you that haven't gemmed stuff, and most people shouldn't be gemming stuff, the reason that you would do that is because the game determines how many speed ups you need to buy. And when you buy speed ups in bulk, they're cheaper. It's less gems per minute of speed up. So although it seems silly, adding the one extra troop to do 1,404 troops in this instance would cost more gems per troop. And so doing them, the 1,403 at a time is a lower gems per troop number, and that's why he's doing that. Basically, when the game buys a 1 day speed up, and that's all, no 1 minute speed ups, it's more efficient. And that's why that works that way. And the thing you want to make sure you do is have lots of resources open when you're gemming like this, because you do not want to be spending gems on the resources. So there we go. He polishes off his training, queues up his troops, and he's got over 50 million points. And his total troop count is 50 million infantry, 41 million cavalry, 47 million archers, and 1.5 million freaking siege units, man. Crazy. Let's jump in game real quick so I can show you a quick update on how our kingdom project that we're building together is going. Here we are in Kingdom 2605, where we're structuring the kingdom similar to 1960, a kingdom that obviously has a reputation for being a 1-to-2 alliance structure that is a powerhouse kingdom. And in order to build a kingdom like that, you need a bunch of high power players that pull down a lot of kill points. Our current game plan as we build this kingdom is to focus on the main alliance initially, and then build out the second alliance probably after the first KVK is when we put a lot of attention to building out that second alliance and further bolstering the first. And we haven't even finished our migration yet. We still have, I believe, around 15 to 20 people that are still going to migrate into the kingdom. The SW Alliance is at 15.3 billion power currently. Second Alliance is currently at 8.4 billion power. And in terms of kill points, we're looking at almost 900 billion kill points right now in the main alliance, and then 114 billion kill points in the second alliance. Keep in mind that this is where we shifted a lot of the players who were already in the kingdom, or there's also, I think, maybe some farms in here at the moment. I could be wrong. And so we'll still have to figure out who in the sort of second alliance is going to ultimately fit into the kingdom long term, but people kind of have to have a KVK to show up and have fun and do stuff in order to demonstrate they really want to be here or not, right? So I'm pretty hyped about how this is going so far. We still have, I want to say, 5 to 10 spots open, and we've been really selective about who we put in those last spots to sort of fill the alliance over here. Yeah, you can see we're at 139 out of 155 members at the moment. And so if you want to potentially join this project, you can go to burnruz.com, and that'll take you to the sort of application process. Again, we just got our troops back from the Hall of Heroes, and I think everybody that's now here has all their troops back from Hall of Heroes. So our average power per player is just over 100 million. So if we drop another, 10 to like 12 players into the alliance, like, you don't want to overstuff it. We'll probably end up in the realm of like 16 to 16.5 billion power, which is really strong, and we'll probably end up getting close to, but not quite at, 1 trillion kill points for the alliance. And I feel really good about where that's heading. And, obviously I'm not delusional. Like, 1960's been around for a long time. They've had a lot of opportunity to accumulate a lot more kill points than that, right? I think they're at, 2.6 trillion kill points, or maybe more. I'd have to look it up and see. It's some insane number. But when you have this structure of kingdom, you need the fewer people you have to do more field fighting, and then people get a lot of kill points potentially because you have so much field fighting to do. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Consider subscribing if you haven't already to make sure you get updates on how this is going and you see how we do when we enter KVK together for the sort of first time as a kingdom. I think it's going to be really fun and exciting. Of course, that'll all depend on who we ultimately get matched with. And if you want to see other times where Yoda has trained just insane amounts of troops, or you just want to see an overview of Yoda's account, I'll have 2 cards in the end screen in just a second.